Hey everybody, today is Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, and we're here in Pottstown, Pennsylvania at the St. Aloysius Cemetery. This is the old St. Aloysius Cemetery, not to be confused with the not as old St. Aloysius Cemetery in Pottsgrove, Pennsylvania. The last thing you want to do is head out to that cemetery and waste an hour and a half of your life walking around looking for a grave that does not exist. That would be ridiculous. You would not want to do something that dumb. So anyway, we are here in Pottstown, Pennsylvania to find a very famous grave. I've actually never been to this cemetery before, and I don't know why, because it's amazing looking. Though, if there is one thing I could recommend other than making sure you're at the correct cemetery, is maybe don't drive your car through here. Park on a street and walk on over here because as you can see, the ground is quite crazy, and especially back there, it's very, very crazy. I definitely bottomed out the bottom of my car, and I'm hoping everything is okay because the bottom of my car definitely smashed into some bricks that were sticking up. So not exactly the greatest cemetery to drive through because, again, it is a very, 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 very old cemetery. The roads actually stop right about there and right about there, and then it's just dirt that you're driving on, which is really bizarre. So again, I would recommend making sure you're at the correct cemetery and then maybe parking over here on High Street. I think Chestnut Street is back there. Park on one of those streets and then just walk your way over here because that would make a lot more sense and save you the issue of bottoming out your car. Also, I don't really think my car should be parked here because if anybody else comes to the cemetery, they're not going to be able to get through. But all right, so like I said, the reason why we're out here today is to find a very famous grave, which, as per usual, I have no idea where it is located. Thankfully, this cemetery is not huge, so it should not be all that difficult to find the grave. And in the meantime, we get to walk around this amazing old cemetery. I'm already seeing some really awesome looking headstones. I don't know why I've never pulled over and checked out this cemetery before, but now that I'm here, I'm happy I'm here. And also, if you do visit the cemetery, there are rules you have to follow. Welcome to St. Aloysius Cemetery. This is a sacred place. We ask all visitors to abide by the rules and regulations of the cemetery. We ask you to pay particular attention to the following regulations. So there you go. You guys can read that sign. Hopefully, it did not say anything about not being able to vlog from here because that's what we're doing today. Again, I have no idea where this cemetery or where this grave is located in the cemetery. We are going to find it, though. Should not be all that difficult because, like I said, the cemetery is not all that large. But, man, look at some of these old headstones here. This is awesome. 1935, 1934, 1937, 1951. This cemetery's been here for a little while, and it shows its age, but it is pretty amazing looking. I'm going to see if you're a fan of old cemeteries. Even besides the reason why we're here today, just coming out here in general, probably worth it. So the reason why we're out here today is to find the grave of Anthony, aka Tony Marchione. He was the last man killed in combat during World War II. He actually died 3 days after the surrender of Japan. Japanese surrendered on August 15th, 1945, and he passed away on August 18th, 1945, while doing a simple reconnaissance mission over Okinawa. He was taking some photographs in his B-32 when their plane was attacked by Japanese fighter pilots. Again, 3 days after the surrender, they were attacked. There were a lot of Japanese soldiers who were very patriotic, very loyal, who did not really want to give up the fight. So even though Japan had surrendered, there were little pockets of soldiers, Japanese soldiers, who were still continuing the fight. And even though Japan had surrendered and the war was over, they were attacked. He was shot in the chest by a .20 caliber bullet from the fighter plane and died while in the air. He died fairly quickly from what I was reading online. I would assume being shot in the chest by a .20 caliber bullet would do that to you. But just a shame to think that the war had ended. They thought it is done. We've been fighting all this time. We've been here in Japan battling This war, we've won. The war's over. It is done with. Let's go take some photos. For whatever reason, we're out here to take photos. And then you get attacked by Japanese fighter pilots who have decided to not quite give up that fight just yet. From what I was reading, this attack actually led the US military, led General MacArthur to question whether or not they should accept the Japanese surrender or if they should retaliate. Because they could have done that. They could have said, all right, we were attacked, 3 days after the surrender. We're going to retaliate. The war has not come to an end, but they had to make a decision. What do we do? Do we retaliate? Do we continue the fight? Or do we accept the actual surrender and figure this is kind of like a one-off thing, that these men, these Japanese men, were just continuing the fight. They were continuing their loyalty and their honor. But all things considered, the war is actually done and over with. And General MacArthur, I think, made the right decision. He decided, we're not going to retaliate. We're going to accept the Japanese surrender. The war is done. The war is over with. But due to this attack, we almost went back to war with Japan. The surrender almost did not, I won't say did not happen, but was not taken seriously. They almost, the U.S. Army almost continued the fight, which would have probably been the bad idea, because who knows how many hundreds of thousands of other lives would have been taken had they continued the fight. So General MacArthur, I think, made the right decision by saying, no, we are accepting the Japanese surrender. The war has come to an end. We are not going to retaliate. And as doing such, probably saved a ton of lives, which was, again, probably the right thing to do. Look at this headstone right here. This is awesome. 1918 to 1934. So if I'm not mistaken, I think the grave we're looking for might be right over here. Yes, it does look like we have actually found the grave, which was a heck of a lot easier when you're in the correct cemetery and don't spend an hour and a half walking around the wrong cemetery. Not that I would do something foolish like that. So if you are looking for this grave, it's not really in the front of the cemetery off High Street. It's in the back of the cemetery off Chestnut. And here it is. Marchione. Anthony J. Marchione. Looks like he has two headstones. There's one here for the family, which has Ralph, Amelia, and Anthony. And then one down here, which has Anthony as well. So I'm assuming he's probably buried, well, just in this area in general. But interesting that he actually has his name on the family headstone and then his own headstone as well. So as it says, Anthony J. Marchione, 1925 to 1945, Sargent 20, Recon, GP 5AF, World War II. And somebody has left a penny. Of course, I was foolish and did not bring any change with me, because that's what I do when I come to cemeteries. I mean to bring change. I mean to leave change. I always forget to bring change with me. So right here in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, the last man killed, the last U.S. soldier killed in combat in World War II. Pretty crazy to think. And the fact that, again, he did die 3 days after the war had come to an end, after Japan had surrendered. You would think that the fighting would have stopped. There would not have been any more killing, but that was not quite the case. And thankfully, this attack did not lead to more deaths, to a continuation of the war. Like I said, General MacArthur made the right decision, decided not to retaliate, and as such, the war did eventually come to an end. But right here, the grave of the last man, the last soldier, the last U.S. soldier killed in combat in World War II. I do suppose my car's not all that far away, so I probably should go get a penny and leave it here on the grave of Anthony Tony Marchione. I'm going to go back and get myself a penny. I would recommend, though, if you do come out here to see this grave, again, it is kind of in the back of the cemetery, back off of Chestnut Street. So I would recommend parking back here on Chestnut, or on, what is that, Mount Vernon, because, again, the actual front High Street, the old entrance to the cemetery is a little old, a little wonky. The The ground is very uneven. The old bricks that have probably been here since the cemetery opened are kind of all over the place. And I really wouldn't recommend driving through this cemetery. It's a little sketch. Just park back here and just walk over here. Again, it's right off of Chestnut Street. Right there's the intersection of Chestnut and Mount Vernon. Just walk over here, pay your respects, and then you won't have to walk all the way back to your car off of High Street to get a penny. And on top of that, you won't be very nervous about leaving, because the last thing you want to do is bottom out your car for a second time. The good news, though, about having to walk back to the car is I can take a look at some more of these graves out here. This cemetery, again, is pretty fantastic. I want to say some of the graves back here are more newer-ish. I wouldn't say these are necessarily new graves, but they're graves that are not quite as old. But up here, up front, some of these graves do look to be rather old. And again, you can see how driving through the cemetery requires you to just kind of drive through the graves and on the somewhat gravel here. Some parts it's gravelly, some parts it's completely just grown over and it's nothing more than grass. It does at least look like they have some people out here to do some upkeep. They have maintenance out here. The grass has been mowed. I have seen some cemeteries in the area that aren't as fortunate as this one, have become very overgrown or just in poor shape. You can see some of the graves here, the headstones in the cemetery. That's the second time I think I said that in this video. You can see some of the headstones have fallen over, which is a shame. This one here is broke. Still though, pretty awesome cemetery. Looks like somebody was out here drinking their Wawa while visiting the cemetery. Who knows? Maybe somebody took a nap under there. This is a really interesting looking grave. Some of these graves are quite interesting looking, but this is the one I noticed immediately when I first drove in. Look at this one with the cherub. Look at that. How cool is that? Cannot really read what that says. Is it Selingela? Is that what that says? Selingir? I'm probably saying that incorrectly. Some of these headstones are just so worn down you can't even read them anymore. Really weird. This one's become so worn on this side. I wonder if that's from people mowing in the area. That's really bizarre that it's very worn away right there. So I'm not entirely sure if this is a child that's buried here. I have no idea. That is pretty amazing though. Looks like right over here is a family plot. You can see the old fence that goes around it. That is awesome looking. I only see one grave here, but I'm assuming there's probably some more buried next to this one. You can't actually read it anymore. This headstone clearly fell over a long time ago. It's been completely weathered away. There are no, it's not legible at all anymore. In fact, I don't even see any writing on it. Couldn't even begin to pick out words on that. Kind of a shame to think that, I don't want to say this has been lost to history. Somebody may know who's still buried here, but it's a shame. This is somebody's family plot. Them and their family was buried here. They clearly spent some money to get a nice headstone and to get this really nice fence put around it. And then come 2023, nobody really has any idea who's still buried there. Also really interesting that these graves are right up next to this house. Somebody with a wild imagination, I would not be so cool with that. Okay, this is awesome. You guys know how much I love these really interesting headstones, these metal headstones here. What are these called? Leave a comment down below if you are a cemetery aficionado, a graveyard aficionado, and you know what the name of these kinds of headstones are. I love these. I've just been noticing them recently at more and more cemeteries I've been going out to. I love them. You can hang a little basket of flowers on the hook there. These are really cool. I don't know why. I just find them really fascinating. They're different. I think that's what I like about them. They're just different. There's something unique. There's something interesting. I love those types of headstones, but I don't know what they're called. If you do, comments down below. Let me know. So as you can see, there was once a very, very large tree here that they cut down. Whether or not they cut it down because it was dead or they cut it down because it was doing this to the road, I'm not entirely sure, but as soon as I saw this, I thought, I don't know if I should be driving through here, but what was I gonna do? Back up through the cemetery on the one-lane road? Sounds like a terrible idea. So I decided to just drive through here anyway. And yeah, right about here, you can see I completely bottomed out my car. I want to say that's that looks fresh right there. That's probably from me, and probably from a dozen other cars who have driven through here. So again, the very old brick roadway that only goes partially, it literally ends right there. The old brick road here that starts off the cemetery. It is a little sketchy. I would, like I said, recommend parking on either High Street or Chestnut Street or just any other street I'd recommend parking on. Don't actually drive into the cemetery. It's not the smartest idea. In fact, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna leave the cemetery right now and drive around to Chestnut Street, and I'm just gonna park back there. Wow, that was so much easier. So yeah, cemetery life lesson of the day. Park on Chestnut. Do not go anywhere near High Street. Also, it was very difficult getting out of the cemetery. The gates up front, the very old gates up front, it's very, very narrow. Definitely not designed for modern day cars. Even getting my small Kia through the gates were a little difficult. Had I brought the van today, I would have been in big trouble. I honestly don't know how I would have gotten out of the cemetery. So yeah, again, cemetery life lesson of the day. Even if you want to visit the front of the cemetery, I don't care. Don't park up there. Park back here. All right, so grab myself a penny, a 2022 penny here to leave on the grave of Anthony Tony Marchione, the last man, the last soldier killed during combat in World War II. I'm not entirely sure where to leave the penny though. Do I leave it on the family grave, or do I leave it on, I'm gonna leave it right here. I figure this is more his, at least even if he is buried over here with the family, I'd say this is more of his headstone. So I'm gonna leave it right here next to the other penny. And there we go. Fix this flag a little bit as well. Why is this flag all, there we go. I don't know who did that. There we go. Flag has been fixed. It's a blow in the wind once again. Definitely a grave I've been wanting to come out and see for a while now. As soon as I heard about the story of Anthony, knew I had to get out here, knew I had to see this grave in this very buggy cemetery. The weather has changed quite a bit. In fact, I'm actually warm right now wearing this jacket. It's gone from like 30s, 40s. It's now up into like the high 70s. And I think all the bugs who either went into hibernation, or bugs don't hibernate, all the bugs who are maybe not born yet or whatever, I don't know, for some reason, it's become very buggy. All the bugs have come back in full force. They're everywhere right now, unfortunately. The cemetery is just completely full of bugs. But you know what? Worth it to visit the grave of Anthony J. Marchione. Pretty awesome, pretty amazing, crazy story. Unnecessary death. I mean, not that any deaths in war are necessary. War is not necessary at all. I'm very much against wars in general, but a death that happened 3 days after the war had technically sort of ended. All right, guys, so I think that's just about gonna do it for the old St. Aloysius Cemetery here in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Again, make sure you visit the old St. Aloysius Cemetery, not the new St. Aloysius Cemetery, only a few miles in that direction. You do not want to make that mistake. Look at this grave here. Was it spray painted gold? That is interesting. That is weird. I wonder why somebody did that. Vandalism? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting vandalism to just spray paint a headstone gold. That is interesting. But all right, guys, so that is going to do it. Just wanted to get out here, see the grave of Anthony Tony Marchione, the last man, so many bugs, the last veteran, the last soldier killed during combat in World War II. Look at this interesting headstone. That's awesome. It's iron. The Jesus on there. Again, some of these are very, very old. This is a really awesome cemetery. Not only is it very old, it's amazing, has some really cool headstones. Pretty awesome to walk through here. But on top of that, I mean, just the fact that it has such an amazing grave here of a man who's a very important piece of World War II, of American history, buried right here in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Pretty amazing. But all right, guys, I am gonna let you go. So as always, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check down below for links to Patreon. If you guys do become a patron, I will send you a postcard every single month from the road. Also check down below for a link to Spreadshirt, where you can grab yourself retro Rest Stop t-shirts. Proceeds, both from Spreadshirt and for Patreon, do help support the show, and they keep the show going, so I really do appreciate the help. It brings us out to awesome and amazing places like this. So again, I really do appreciate it. And if you watch this video all the way until the very end, I'm gonna just say hashtag RIP Tony. There you go. Rest in peace, Tony. RIP Tony. If you guys watch this video all the way until the very end. But all right, guys, like I said, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you do hit that subscribe button or you are subscribed, then I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye. And for those of you still watching, again, Chestnut Street. Park on Chestnut. Do not go into the cemetery through High Street. Also, right down the road, the best hot dogs you'll ever have in your entire life. There's a reason why the store is called The Very Best. I'm gonna go get myself some hot dogs now.